All right, let's check it out. All right, welcome into Rob Schmitt Tonight. I'm Bob Brooks. Rob has the night off. So the former president of the United States, not Joe Biden, continued the celebration of his opening presidential center in Chicago. Today, the celebrations continued. Now, before we get into it, I thought this moment actually deserved a second look from yesterday. I get a kick out of that, seeing that. You know, Kamala, she is leading in the polls to be the next Democrat nominee for president. Don't you think that would be a treat for the GOP? Anyways, Obama sat down with NBC today, and here's what he hopes his personal $850 million monument to himself it achieves for us all.
I think it's a reminder of what America is. There's no doubt that we are going through a period right now of disruption, polarization. That's caused, I think, people to feel as if our democracy, our civic habits and virtues, our shared understanding of how we treat each other has started to crumble.
I don't know about that. That is a pretty bold claim for anyone to state, especially the former president. The only thing I can think of when I heard that statement like that is this. If people feel that way, you did this. Barack Obama, you did. When did the temperature really turn up in our country? Look, you know, it's always heated in politics. And the next election is always the biggest one of our lives. In a big way it is. It's the next election. You know, it's always the one that is going to determine what comes next for us in our country. So I get that. But when did this era that we are currently in, when did it start? Well, I think it started when President Trump got into office and then immediately found out that he was under investigation. And that investigation started under the Obama administration. And then the next thing you knew, there was the Robert Mueller investigation, Russia, 2 impeachments. And then fast forward years later, multiple assassination attempts on President Trump's life, one in which he was actually shot in the head in Butler, Pennsylvania. Obama and the left beating this drum that Americans have this belief that the sky is falling under President Trump because they are still so out of touch with the American people. And I'll say this. I know a lot of you watching tonight believe what President Trump is doing, what his DOJ is doing, how he is weeding out DEI mandates in schools and private companies, securing the border. The war in Iran is cleaning up a mess that was left behind. You know, we don't think things are crumbling, but rather being restored to where they should be, right? Democrats and Obama just can't believe there are millions of people in this country that don't think the way that they think. They are stunned by that. So while they are out of office, they paint the country like it is some doomsday scenario. And that's actually why President Trump is in office, because instead of listening to Americans, they always try and talk down to you. They don't want you to remember, as Carl just stated, when they left us rampant inflation, defund the police movements, open borders, illegals committing all kinds of crimes, raping women, killing women, teaching kids trans stuff, men and women's sports. It is a litany of things that goes on and on. But now they have the Obama Presidential Center, the new mecca for the left to go celebrate at, the $850 million monstrosity that you see there in the south side of Chicago, where they celebrated Obama. And here's how it was described on CNN.
This was like church for liberals. It was. Everybody was dressed in their Sunday finest.
Church. Bono from U2, he was there. I'm sure the people of Southside Chicago really connect with him. They share a lot in values, I'm sure. Gavin Newsom, he was there. He apparently cried. He was so moved.
When they walked upstairs, they said they were crying the whole time. And I looked at him. I said, I'm good. Got up there, literally started tearing up.
Joe Biden, he was there and apparently looking for his granddaughter.
My granddaughter.
Poor Joe. I kind of almost hate to make fun of him at this point. It is bad. Again, all in the south side of Chicago, in a city where on Memorial Day weekend alone, at least 37 people were wounded in shootings. put that into perspective. But at least now there's a giant Obama museum there, and they kicked it off with Bono from the Irish rock band U2. I don't know, seems kind of out of touch, especially when Obama made so many promises to a community like this.
That ceremony yesterday was jubilant, to say the least. Also, several celebrities, David Letterman, Stephen Colbert, who we know has sparred with President Trump. The performances we saw, Stevie Wonder, Jennifer Hudson, Christina Aguilera. It's a reminder of just how much Obama meant to the thousands of people who came here.
It actually reeks of being out of touch. Their whole party does. The whole system still does. Do you know Obama, he hit on media today. He hates the fact that networks like Newsmax, that we exist. And it's not all as consolidated as it used to be, though. It is still extremely left-leaning for the most part.
The challenge we now have is that the media is so splintered that people who are doing excellent work, people who are just as gifted, or in some cases more gifted than I am to communicate people's aspirations, hopes, and dreams, who are really doing great work at state and local levels. It's harder for them to break through.
Democrats also hate that President Trump has called that all out, and changes are finally being made. I also thought this was rich, too. The NBC Today co-host. All right, take a listen to this.
You were actually at the ceremony yesterday, Lauren, because your mother oversaw its development as CEO of the Obama Foundation. Oh, that's a lovely picture of you and Valerie.
I was there.
What were your takeaways?
I was so happy to be there to support her.
Her mom is the CEO of the Obama Foundation. Yeah, I wonder if there's any bias in that room. What do you think, huh? I say probably. Wonder how she got that job. Like I said, completely out of touch. You know, the mainstream media actually talked about contractors, have they? Not getting paid for the work that they did on that building. You know, I read one story about a plumber. He's out $4 million. Might lose his business. That is a tragedy. Anyways, it was reported on MS Now that it was a jubilant event.
That ceremony yesterday was jubilant, to say the least.
Christina Aguilera was also there. She's from the suburbs of Pittsburgh. Now, I have no issue with Christina Aguilera whatsoever. But, you know, I wonder if the plumber who was out $4 million, I bet you that he cares. I bet you that he cares that no one's paying attention to that. Anyways, typical Democrat behavior. Here's the real future of their party, though. And this is what stood out to me last night. Zohran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders, they held a rally. They said that they were the future of the Democrat Party, flat out. Not even mincing words. And to be fair, I think they're right. Democrat socialists, they are doing very well in their primaries within the Democrat Party.
We have to change our politics and come together around our common interests and concerns as Americans. As a community organizer in Chicago, I learned that meaningful change always begins at the grassroots, and that engaged citizens working together can accomplish extraordinary things.
Dr. Carol Swain is a tenured professor at Princeton and Vanderbilt Universities. Carol, Dr. Swain, I should say, pleasure to have you on tonight. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So your initial thoughts of Obama's big unveiling of his presidential center in Southside Chicago is what? How are you reflecting on this?
Well, I'm thinking about all those school children and people that will enter that building, and just how hideous it looks from the outside. And it's a missed opportunity because it could have been a grand building with lots of light and inspirational presentations. I don't know what took place inside the building, but I would not want to enter that building. And I don't see how it helps Black Americans at all. It sort of aligns with the negative perception that the Obamas have held of America, the messages that they have espoused over the years, not very inspirational for Black American youth.
You're saying basically it's domineering. It's a reminder that, yeah, we are in control. We are still over you. I mean, it is sprawling. It is so much taller than every other building that's around that neighborhood.
Well, just to me, it's gloomy looking. And so Obama promised to fundamentally change America. And I would say that he fundamentally changed America in ways, from my perspective, are very negative. I sort of divide the world into pre-Obama, post-Obama, and it has not been great for Black Americans or for race relations of white Americans. And we can pretend that the election of Barack Obama, was great. We thought we were at a post-racial moment. We were not. We were not at a post-racial moment because all the progress that we had made over the decades, I would argue that they were erased.
I would say it's great for elitists, and that's pretty much we saw an elitist party happening there yesterday.
Marxist, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. I want to talk about this. It's such a big story, and I don't want it to go away in the mainstream media here right now. The subcontractors who helped build this, right? They're claiming they haven't been paid. Some of them, as I mentioned, they are owed millions. What is going on with this, and why is nobody talking about this? You build this presidential center, and by my accounts, there was at least 10 contractors who claim that they have not been paid yet for the work that they did.
Well, the biggest story is that we know that diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as race-based affirmative action in higher education, that our country legally has moved back to the Constitution, the Equal Protection Clause. It's my understanding that they only considered Black subcontractors and contractors.
That's right.
And so it was a Black-built monstrosity, and so that's one issue that they did. And then they didn't pay the people. And I can imagine, how excited those contractors and subcontractors were that they were working on this Obama project, and then they got stiffed, and no one cares. We're the only one who cares. The Republicans care, you care, I care, but the mainstream media, not so much.
Not so much. They want to say it was so great that so many celebrities were there for the thousands in attendance. I can only imagine being in that neighborhood and then looking in at that, just thinking to myself, wow, yeah, really, that's what we got here. Bono's on the stage right now. Great. Unbelievable. Dr. Swain, we got to leave it there. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the latest on President Trump's deal with Iran. Is it going to work? Well, I'll tell you what, everyone seems to know the answer to that lately. Only they're not the ones negotiating the deal. All right, the president is going to have details on that coming up next.
This was America in 1980, held in contempt by foreign nations. Across the world, people were losing their freedoms. So many countries thought America had seen its day, but we knew better. So we stopped complaining together and started working together. Today, America is strong again. We're looking to the future with confidence and pride. America's best days and democracy's best days lie ahead.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade and same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
Being prepared is vital.
It's better to have these devices and not need them than the alternative.
And I hope you'll add a life hack to your home to protect your family in a choking emergency. It's the only device of its kind FDA authorized.
The LifeVac is the #1 choking rescue device in the country.
With thousands of lives saved and the choice of first responders nationwide, the LifeVac is a must-have for everyone.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
We've now fought a war, spent billions and billions of dollars, put an enormous strain on our military. A lot of people have died. It feels like we're back where we were before we started the war, except maybe a little bit worse off.
All right, former President Obama saying the United States may be worse off now than before the Iran war, coming from the guy who had the disastrous JCPOA deal, empowering Iran rather than stopping its nuclear ambitions, giving them pallets of cash worth billions of dollars to fund their terror proxies. Meanwhile, the Swiss Foreign Ministry confirming the talks between Iranian leaders and U.S. officials that were supposed to take place today, they have now been postponed. The IDF also securing a new ceasefire with Hezbollah. This happened after an outbreak of fighting originally threatened to derail the deal between the U.S. and Iran. The IDF reporting 4 soldiers are dead from the conflict. Lebanon saying 18 people have been killed. Israel also refusing to withdraw from southern Lebanon and will do whatever is necessary to protect their citizens. Now, following a call between Marco Rubio and the Lebanese president, the United States Department, the U.S. State Department announcing the next round of talks will actually be held next week. Rubio reiterating the need to disarm Hezbollah. He also reaffirmed the U.S. support for the government of Lebanon's efforts to create a fully sovereign Lebanese state that is at peace with all its neighbors. Let's talk about it. Fred Fleitz, former Trump National Security Council Chief of Staff and Executive Secretary. We also have Tony Shaffer, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. They both join us tonight. Good to see you both. Fred, I want to start with you. Some new reporting we just got out. This is from the Washington Post, okay? They are writing, intel agencies warning Trump that Bibi is likely to take steps that will undermine the president's efforts to reach a peace deal. Your thoughts on this just coming out?
I doubt that's true, but assuming that it is true, why are intelligence analysts leaking their assessments to the press to embarrass President Trump? John Ratcliffe and whoever the DNI is, Bill Pulte, heads need to roll over this kind of thing, whether this is true or not. Netanyahu is an ally of the United States. We have some differences between the two countries. We will always be strong allies. There's a little tension now. But I'm just outraged when I see intelligence officers, again, politicizing intelligence to undermine a Republican president.
Colonel Shaffer, want to get your take.
Yeah, I agree with Fred. Look, there's a lot of sensitive points, both regarding planning of potential new military operations, which is still ongoing, just saying. And the idea here is to actually, bring the temperature in the room down. We have enough drama on the battlefield right now, so I don't think we need to be seeing our intelligence community leaking anything. What we need to focus on is how to actually achieve the specific policy objectives that President Trump's outlined, and that is to basically reset the entire Middle East, how it functions, what our role is there, without having to use any more combat operations. Will there be differences with the Israelis? Always. But we always have to remember that they are the only bastion of a democracy that actually functions in the Middle East at this point in time.
Fred, everyone wants to put in their 2 cents to this. I've talked with so many guests over the last 3 days that say, it's a horrible deal. It's never going to happen. Iran's never going to play ball. You have people on the other side, with President Trump on this. Talk about what these next 60 days are actually going to look like, how you go about that, executing these deals and having these kind of conversations.
So all these critics want is a perfect deal. Every aspect of the threat from Iran to be addressed. That's not going to happen. This isn't a perfect deal, but it is a necessary deal. It does what President Trump has to do, what he promised to do, to end the war, to make sure this was not a long conflict that would become a quagmire. He's doing what has to be done. It's a tough deal. It also recognizes that Iran's military and nuclear capabilities have been destroyed. I think we can resolve the issues in Lebanon. What I'm concerned about is that the Iranian government may not honor this agreement, either immediately or they're going to start a secret nuclear program no matter what we do, maybe in a few months. And I think that means hostilities will resume. We need to keep an eye on the Iranians so they don't do that. But let's be clear, this is going to be a rough road.
It's a big effort, and I commend President Trump for taking this on. But everyone, including the president himself, has said, especially Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday, you got to give it time. You got to give them time to go to work here. And Colonel Shaffer, I want to talk about this. The President Trump writing on Truth Social, the war has diminished Iran. It doesn't any longer have an Air Force, a Navy, anti-aircraft equipment, radar, or practically anything else. And yet the Democrats say that Iran is better off now than it was 4 months ago. Could you imagine getting away with that? How stupid can some people be? He also added, we didn't meet out of desperation. Iran did. They are finished. We'll play out the 60 days. They get no money, not 10 cents. Talk about it, Colonel.
So, and the New York Post and the Wall Street Journal kind of go with the Democrats on this too, and I think there were horrific editorials in this. The president is trying a different approach. As Fred said, we can't basically fight our way out of every challenge. This is a challenge where he's using diplomatic and commercial pressure on Iran, which is working. The global blockade has been amazing. It's completely subverted the Iranian economy. The $300 billion, it's an investment scheme, not a payoff. It's not pallets of cash like Obama did. And I resent President Obama saying this is no different, only going to make it worse. No, we've destroyed the uranium. We used military force to achieve specific objectives, and we're not giving them cash. This $300 billion thing is going to be conditions-based with our allies. It's an extension, essentially, of the Abraham Accords in some form. So, am I skeptical? Yeah, I'm skeptical like Fred regarding the Iranians showing up, but I think this is the best path we have because ultimately we still have the military options, as the president just pointed out. We just decimated them. We could always do that again if we have to.
Fred, I feel like so many people are hung up on this money that Colonel Shaffer just mentioned, this $300 billion. These are things that are going to be years down the road, investment, infrastructure projects, all predicated on Iran meeting their end of the bargain, which will take a very long time in some cases.
I'm concerned about this $330 billion investment fund also. We know Iran's going to get access to its frozen assets if there's a peace agreement and sanctions will be lifted. And I'm okay with this fund as long as it doesn't come from U.S. taxpayer money and there's some kind of oversight. So this money goes to the Iranian people to rebuild infrastructure, bridges, desalination plants, energy plants, and is not used for weapons. I don't know how that can be done. So I am troubled about this fund, but I think that we really need to lead on our allies to say, if you're going to give this money to Iran, you have to make sure it does not go to the military.
The vice president yesterday seemed confident they would be able to monitor where that money goes. So like I've said about 1,000 times over the last couple of days, got to wait and see. Let them get to work. Fred Fleitz, Colonel Shaffer, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Our Democrats revealing their plans to turn America into a one-party state. How about it? L.A. They have moved towards allowing illegals to vote in their elections. They're like, this was only a matter of time, right? Well, now they're actually moving to do it. Former ICE Director Todd Lyons is going to weigh in with us next.
Tonight's Newsmax lineup is brought to you by Crown Atlantic. Protect what matters most with fast, affordable life insurance. Visit lifeforless.com.
The Dutton Ranch. We're back in business.
You heard right. Let's go to work. I'm glad you're making friends, honey.
You're every bit as advertised.
You're damn right he is.
Fighting the good fight, buddy.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text Newsmax to 710-710 to learn more.
The human brain is truly incredible. It's a complex network of 100 billion neurons that create cognitive functions surpassing that of supercomputers. Our brain controls our thoughts, our emotions, and our movements. Prevagen contains apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish, and is designed specifically for the brain to help keep it amazing, so that we can continue to live our best life. Prevagen, for your brain.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis? With fewer symptoms from moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, where would you go? Imagine being a million miles away. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. And for adults with active psoriatic arthritis, Tremfya goes beyond the skin. Less joint pain, stiffness, and swelling is possible. And Tremfya is the first and only treatment of its kind proven to help stop further joint damage. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections, or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
Okay, welcome back in. How about this? LA voters can soon decide whether illegal aliens should have a path to vote in city and school board elections. The city council voting 10-5, advancing the controversial proposal that's now headed for the ballot in November. Councilwoman Hugo Santo, I think Councilman Hugo Santo Martinez, who introduced the measure, says despite their many economic and cultural contributions, non-citizens Angelenos remain disenfranchised and underrepresented in the local elections and decisions that determine the quality of their life. It is imperative that the city grant non-citizens the right to vote in the city that they live in and significantly strengthen to foster a more representative electorate. I have a thought you're here illegally. You chose to come here illegally, so no, you can't vote. Pass the Save America Act now. This is exactly the reason why nobody trusts the safety and security of the elections that we have. This is case in point. Former ICE Director Todd Lyons joins us now. Todd, it's a pleasure to see you. I knew this was, I think we all knew this was coming, but now it's here. Your thoughts on that? Eventually, illegals might be able to vote in L.A.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. You know, first off, if they really want to help them have a better quality of life, let's help them become U.S. citizens, right? They should, help them come in the right way. This is a whole policy issue that could be solved with having them come in the right way, enjoy the American dream, enjoy the American culture, come here, be American citizens the right way. But no, instead, we're coddling a class of citizens that have broken the law and are taking advantage of our systems. And it's totally wrong. And unfortunately, this is a foothold that's going to lead to more and more illegal aliens voting in our elections, which is going to go from, school board, whether it's city council, to a state, to federal, and it's just going to go and go and go. And it needs to be stopped before it goes any farther.
Well, I wonder who they'll vote for.
Unfortunately, when we think about, the Statue of Liberty, right, and we think about the country, how it was built on the back of immigrants, where we wanted people to come, right? You think about Ellis Island, where we had it in the Immigration Nationality Act. You couldn't come here and be a public charge. Well, the illegal aliens now vote for those individuals that want them to be that public charge, right? That's that they're voting for those, these individuals that want to give them free health care, free housing. We have homeless veterans on our streets that don't have the same privileges that illegal aliens have. So you know who they're going to vote for.
Yes, you do. And now you kind of know why they let them all into the country for this explicit purpose. All right, well, I want to move on to this. The Trump administration, they've been cracking down on fraud in Massachusetts now. 15 arrested, including 11 illegals, accused of stealing more than $1.4 million in American taxpayer-funded SNAP, Social Security disability payments, housing assistance, and unemployment benefits. So here is the DOJ on the fraud happening there. Take a look.
American citizens were boxed out of these programs because illegal aliens took their names to then take their money, or more accurately, your money, the American taxpayers' money. Illegal immigration carries real and substantial costs to American taxpayers and places enormous strain on our public benefits systems.
Well, Todd, I feel like they come here and then they almost know how to game the system, or they all start doing it. It becomes almost like a business for them. Case in point, Minneapolis, what went on up there.
100%. And kudos to our fraud czar, Colin McDonald. He's, him and his team are doing great work. Leah Foley, the U.S. Attorney from Massachusetts. You just look at this case up here, these 11 individuals. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? To your point, they do come here, and it's truly a racket. It is organized crime. These are benefits that are meant for American citizens that are trying to have, a hand up to a better life. But instead, these fraudsters come in who shouldn't be here in the first place and take advantage of these benefits in these programs that are meant to help American citizens have a better life. And a lot of time, it's, you see organized crime come in from cartels because they know they get these people in, they can send money back to home countries, and it can fund other organized, criminal activity. And it just goes on and on. And to your point, look at the work that, ICE, Homeland Security Investigations did with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI in Minnesota. That's just case in point that it goes very deep, not only to the NGOs, but to state and local governments that are truly involved in this fraud.
Yeah, it all reeks, and so many different people benefit. Those who don't, American citizens, our money, but hey, at least they're cracking down on it. Todd Lyons, we got to leave it there.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. Have a good Friday.
Okay, coming up, the Fed swarmed Skid Row to investigate voter fraud as homeless people claim that they were bribed to vote for Democrats in the L.A. mayoral primary. Soon they won't need to do this. As I just pointed out, illegals are going to be able to vote. But anyways, we're going to hear from some of the homeless who said it actually happened. That is coming up.
When you're in the news business, it never stops. News is always breaking, and it's my job to get you the news, no spin, no BS. If you don't believe us, just watch us.
Watch Finnerty, weeknights, only on Newsmax.
IRAs and 401ks were designed to account for a 2% rate of inflation. The idea was you could apply a 4% withdrawal rate and it would last. Inflation is at 3.8%, but when you account healthcare, insurance, food, and energy, the real rate is 8%. Gold's role isn't to make you rich. It's to help you survive what's coming. Call Patriot Gold Group at 1-800-778-4156. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the America 250 no fee for life IRA. Call 1-800-778-4156 and see how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver. Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
As a kid, I was desperate for the $300 pairs of sunglasses that I saw all the athletes in my life wear, but it was just not realistic for me to spend that kind of money on sunglasses, something that I would probably lose or break. And that was the genesis for starting Shady Rays, high-quality, polarized, performance sunglasses with lost and broken protection. If you'd like to try a pair completely risk-free, see why millions have switched to Shady Rays at shadyrays.com and shop our full collection.
Guys, wake up. Testosterone boosters are useless if they're not also fighting cortisol, the hormone that makes you soft after 40. Ageless Male Max does it all with patented KSM 66 to boost testosterone and balance cortisol. Get Ageless Male Max at these fine retailers.
Okay, welcome back in. The feds descending on Skid Row yesterday, reportedly for a voter fraud investigation. Plainclothes agents from the FBI and DHS seen conducting dozens of interviews with the homeless populations right on the streets. This after Los Angeles County elections officials announced that they were cooperating with law enforcement over allegations that the Skid Row inhabitants were paid or bribed to vote and sign ballot petitions in the L.A. mayoral primary. The allegations aired on local networks in Los Angeles. Take a look.
They're just trying to collect signatures, get paid, and so in return, we'll offer you a few bucks, and there you go on your merry way.
How often do you see these signature signer people?
Every day. They will pay you to fill out petitions. Cigarettes, there you go. Money, here you go.
What kind of stuff do they want you to sign?
Just those are like petitions and stuff like that?
It's like promises like housing or, oh, this is for like a new governor or something like that.
Well, the investigation also reportedly tied to the surge in mail-in ballots days after the L.A. mayoral primary race that put Neitha Rahman ahead of Spencer Pratt. After days of counting, Rahman will now face Karen Bass in November. Now, Spencer Pratt reacted to the federal agency and on Skid Row, posting this: "It's superlatively important that we protect our democracy. We all need to have faith in our electoral system." We do. Dr. Michael Savage, host of Savage Nation, California resident for decades. He knows the L.A. Democrat machine very well. Dr. Savage, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Well, Bob, on the one hand, of course, I'm nauseated and shocked by it. On the other hand, I'm a realist, and I've been around long enough to know that this is sort of nothing new. Tammany Hall ran New York for over 100 years exactly the same way. And in Chicago, the Daily Machine was known to have given out little bottles of booze to the bums on Skid Row to check the right form and elect whoever they wanted to elect. The welfare system, what do you think it's all about? Vote. Social services, what do you think it's all about? The vote. Immigration, Tammany Hall, the vote. Employment, housing, legal aid, community aid, booze, as I said. And if none of that worked, they had thugs with sticks going around beating men into voting booths to vote. Do I find it amusing? No, I find it disgusting. But again, I'm a cynic. I'm not shocked. So we have a choice between Karen Bass, who is a complete incompetent fraud, or a communist who's a complete incompetent fraud. Nothing's going to get better. The once great L.A., which had the movie industry in its hands, has now descended into chaos and despair. And that is the sad truth.
Well, Dr. Savage, I feel like it's kind of dejecting, right, for the people out in Los Angeles, California at large. That how do you combat something like this? It almost seems insurmountable. Spencer Pratt couldn't do it.
Everyone I know with money.
Yeah. Everyone was excited for him, and we all thought maybe there was going to be a breakthrough. No, it just didn't happen.
Right. That young guy gave us hope that we'd have someone come in to clean it up. And now we're being told, no, nothing's going to change. We're going to have more bums, more immigrants, et cetera. And it's very sad. Los Angeles I had a home down there, and I used to go down there, and I loved the energy of it. I loved the whole Hollywood feeling. You could feel it everywhere in L.A. Wherever you went, everyone was in the movies. I mean, that's the truth. Everyone went there because they felt that they were in show business. And now you go there, there's a feeling of depression and loss. And as I said earlier, Bob, everyone that I know with money has left that city. And so there's going to be a bigger out-migration than anyone could imagine when this socialist takes over. And what are we going to be left with? Unions and illegal aliens? Who is going to pay the bills?
They're talking about, well, they're talking about having illegal aliens vote in L.A. elections.
Don't they already?
That's something that's actually, well, it will be all legal-like here. It'll be all legal-like, you know, if they.
Well, I've lived in San Francisco so long, it's not a shock to me. When I saw the ballots being printed in 16 languages 20 years ago, I was screaming to the rooftops, but that's how Pelosi maintained her grip on the city and the state. There's nothing new under the sun. Unfortunately, it's not good for the state nor the cities. It's going to get worse. It's never going to get better until this corruption is uncovered and shown and prosecuted. Do you think the Trump administration has the time to actually prosecute those who went and gave these forms to the bums on Skid Row? Isn't it sad that a bum on Skid Row has the same vote that I have? And I'll make it very personal. I'm an immigrant son. I've worked my whole life. I paid more taxes than all the people you can imagine on Skid Row have ever paid in a day. Why are they allowed to vote at all is what I want to know. Well, we live in a democracy. Everyone should have a vote. No, everyone should not have a vote. No, I disagree. Sorry. They're not equal to those who work. They shouldn't have a vote if they're laying in a tent in the gutter on Skid Row. Let's start with that to begin with.
Yeah, I get your points. Heard them before. And I get it. I get the frustration.
It's
Dr.
sickening.
Savage,
It's sickening. What's democracy become? It's become a hypocrisy. We've gone from a democracy to a hypocrisy with these kinds of things. Truthfully, that's the sad truth.
And it looks like socialism is the definite future
coming.
of the Democrat Party. Did you hear Bernie Sanders and Zohra Mamdani last night there? They're celebrating. You know, it's their time.
He's the worst.
Got to leave it there. Good to see you.
Well, Bernie Sanders is the most dangerous man in American political history. I've said it before. Bob, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Always. All right, on to this. Gas prices falling below $4 a gallon for the first time since March as President Trump secures that deal with Iran. Now, at this rate, we could see gas prices fall to about $3 a gallon before the end of the summer. Our next guest, Dick Morris, believes this deal sets up Trump and Republicans to win in the midterms. Dick joins us on set now. Dick, always a
good
pleasure
to be here.
Yeah.
You know, the other story is that because there was emerging a worldwide shortage of oil, the closure of the straits created a situation we've never had before in the world, which is a worldwide global shortage of oil. Now with the straits open and with Venezuela coming on tap with major production and with the UAE doubling production and leaving OPEC, we're past that. And Trump really helped us avert a disaster and lowered gas prices, and I think that'll have a huge impact on the election.
Yeah, Dick, I think that a lot of Americans, many Trump supporters, largely agree with what President Trump has done with Iran. You know, this wasn't some full-scale, boots-on-the-ground kind of Iraq-style, drawn-out war. That's not what this was. Now he has cut a deal, and he's trying real diplomacy after military action, you know, to get a hold of Iran. Gas prices, they kind of went up. Inflation peaked up. We know that's energy-related. Do you see that correcting in time for the midterms?
Yeah, I think it will. I think that the one economic statistic every American knows is how much you paid for gas last night.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows that, and they know it to the tenth of a penny.
Yes.
And I think that's going to have a huge impact because the inflation issue really doesn't exist. The U.S. inflation rate has gone down. The only thing that's gone up is oil.
That's it. This is all oil-related.
Will stop that. But I think that it's very important for us to realize what the long-term effect of this deal is. It eliminates the Straits of Hormuz as a choke point. Oman and the UAE are building land-based alternatives and other canal-based alternatives. And Iran will never be able to do this again. And when people talk about how do we enforce it, we have the U.S. Air Force.
Right.
And with no anti-aircraft system in Iran, Trump can flip that switch anytime he wants. And the only reason we have a deal now is he did it for 3 days before the deal was signed. And those 3 days of bombing showed Iran that he meant business and that President Trump would do what no president has ever done. And with that in mind, don't worry about enforcement. Don't worry about accountability. Trump will make sure it happens.
He will. I mean, he showed us that. Not only was it Operation Epic Fury, then they had the ceasefire. Then he said, oh, you want to play around? Here's more.
Yeah,
We're not going anywhere. All right.
That's right.
Dick Morris, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to this. A TDS psycho gets arrested for sabotaging the reflecting poll. Surprised? Well, I'm not. I think it was only a matter of time before somebody did something. Now they're caught. Going to talk about it next in News from the Left.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, build me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out because they built this thing right.
This little light of mine, in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags are actually made overseas.
If there's one thing that deserves to be made here in America, it should start with the American flag.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
Join our pledge to make the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
We've been building chainsaws for over 100 years. Now that century of cutting comes in a mower. New blade, same bloodline. Right now, save $50 on select mowers. Steel.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
The Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, recently repainted a dark blue, is now sporting a shade of green.
The water is now green.
It's green as heck.
An increasingly murky shade of green.
Puke green.
Kermit the Frog green, like the Gowanus Canal or the water hazard at an abandoned mini golf course.
No, they got him. They got him on the green algae, everybody. Time now news from the left. Talked about it yesterday. The algae in the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. It has the fake news acting like they are all experts in algae analysis, desperately trying to make President Trump look bad. CNN, they actually sent a reporter on site. Story of the year. Scooping water out of the reflecting pool for testing because there was algae in it. They also went as far as to get an algae researcher from the Smithsonian. All right, another correspondent was sticking his hands in the pool to investigate, and now it has even gotten worse. There you go. Show and tell reporting there at its finest. That's pathetic. Last night, independent journalist Nick Shorter reporting the United States Park Police is investigating a vandalism incident involving an 8647 inscription on the blue sealant of the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool. But you won't see much of reporting on that. Also today in D.C., reporter Emily Miller put out this exclusive that a man has been arrested for cutting the sealant and then ripping it off at the reflecting pool. These people are sick and will go to any ends to try and make Trump look bad. The National Guard has to be there, monitoring the pool like hawks. You can also see the rip there at the bottom of the pool, this video as well. How much Trump derangement syndrome do you need to have to do this? Well, I'll tell you what, there's people out there with a lot of it. Kay Smythe, Newsmax contributor, joins us now. Kay, good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's such a stupid thing, the algae
It's so
story.
dumb.
I was laughing the whole time before we came on tonight. It's just so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous and so dumb. You know, I used to be a reporter in the field, and I can only imagine, like, sticking my hands in there and be like, oh, it's green here. I mean, that is pathetic. They should be embarrassed. But they are hell-bent on making Trump look bad, and that's what they're trying to do with this.
Absolutely. That's all they ever try to do, ever. It's not even news anymore. It's just, I mean, listen, the 8647, that is serious. We all know what that means. And I read a bunch of the sort of leftist news media reports on this before we came on. None of them decide. I think one, maybe NBC or one of those said, oh, that's a term that like restaurateurs use when they're trying to get rid of it. No, everyone knows what 8647 means. Like, report the truth. So I do think that that's pretty serious. But the algae thing, I mean, this is, I was trying to come up, I didn't have enough time. I was trying to come up with a joke that sort of compared their reporting to toilet water, because that's basically all it is at this point. I mean, it's worth it for us to laugh at it, but it's so embarrassing and so sad. And I don't know if these networks have shareholders, but I would be furious if I was one of them, because this is just such a degradation of what news is supposed to be.
Major networks devoting so much resources that they have to cover the algae in the pool. I mean, God forbid, and I've said this already before, that the President of the United States try and make our national monuments look nice. Like, how dare he try and do, and he did it for a deal. Yeah, it was like $14 million, originally cut down from the high price tag. All right, also want to switch gears, so I don't want to miss this. Oyster farmer and the Nazi tat guy, right, Graham Platner, who might be the next senator from Maine. So he has more baggage than any candidate the Democrats have ever backed. But he actually said this about the GOP. Take a look.
At the end of the day, I firmly believe that we are facing fascism in this country. Historically, the only thing that's ever beaten that is a broad-based working-class coalition.
He had a Nazi tattoo on his chest for almost 20 years. What's he talking about?
Yeah, fascism. It's just like, bro, if you want to look up fascism, just look down. Just look down. That's all you got to do. Listen, I live out in like real America, like rural America, not trying to say New York isn't real America, but you know what I mean. I live out here in rural America. I'm surrounded by, you know, what he would probably term like working class.
Common sense people. Common sense.
You know, yeah, common sense people. I like to think of, you know, well, it used to be blue collar, but now blue collar guys make like all the money, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, they do.
But none of them are voting Democrat. Like, none of them are voting Democrat, and they're definitely not voting for a Nazi. And this working class coalition that he's talking about, they all voted for Trump. Like, we all voted. Well, I didn't, because obviously you hear the accent. I don't vote for it. My very Southern husband did. But I just think it's just, again, it just so defines that Democrat mentality of let's talk down to people. Let's completely warp the truth. And let's say all of these like really nice things that are never going to come to fruition. And unfortunately, there are still Democrats in this country that still believe the rubbish that they're being fed, and they still vote for.
Well, I'll tell you what, I literally said in the opening monologue tonight, yes, that they are just talking down to people. That's what they do. Continue to do it here. Nothing to see, right? Kay Smythe, got to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, we'll be right back talking about the new Air Force One. Stick with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On.
Your muscle and joint inflammation is real. Here's what real customers are saying about MagnaLife Pain and Inflammation Relief Roll-On. It worked great.
Available at your local retailer.
The Dutton Ranch. We're back in business.
You heard right. Let's go to work. I'm glad you're making friends, honey.
You're every bit as advertised.
You're damn right he is.
Fighting a good fight, buddy.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message, because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes.
Tax relief helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message, because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax relief helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
Mike Hammond of Signal Relief. We've helped nearly 700,000 feel relief in their back, shoulders, and knees with our technology. But for many of us, it's our feet that hurt. And when they hurt, our walks get shorter, activities are skipped, and the moments we love start slipping away. That's why we created the Signal Step, a patent-pending insole built using the same proven technology people already trust from Signal Relief. Signal uses no drugs. There's nothing on the market like it. It's relief without the side effects. It's reusable, fits virtually into any shoe, and in a recent study, over 85% felt relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Feel relief with every step. If you're hurting, go to signalstep.com and get relief today.
All right, welcome back in. President Trump unveiling the long-awaited new Air Force One, a $400 million plane gifted by Qatar, equipped with state-of-the-art technology and a slick new paint job, red, white, and blue. All right, here was the president earlier.
Largest Air Force One ever built. It flies further and faster than any Air Force One, which is among the most beautiful aircrafts the Air Force will ever see or operate. Every man and woman here today should be incredibly proud of what we've all achieved, because this is representative of our country. Now when we land at airports in London and in Germany and different places, nobody tops this one.
All right, the president also announcing the new Air Force One will lead a massive flyover of the nation's capital on July 4th, the nation's 250th birthday, of course. All right. Make sure to check me out on my show, American Agenda. My co-host, Katrina Zish, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Friday, right here on Newsmax. That's going to do it for us tonight. So I hope you have a great weekend. Rob is going to be back Monday, and Finnerty is next.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.